somehow, Palpatine returned. And even more confounding, somehow, so have we. I'm Max.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Luke.
This is Force for Thought.
Yeah, it is.
All right, as we know, Star Wars has a rich history of bringing characters back from the dead, and more recently, leaving characters on such a note that we don't know if we'll ever get to see them again. So we've been asking here at Force for Thought, what characters do we want to see brought back? This includes characters that are dead or presumed dead, or maybe characters that we think we'll just never see again due to external circumstances. So let's get into it. The first person I want to talk about is a pet favorite of mine, and that is Mace Windu. I personally would love to see him come back. I put the odds of him coming back as pretty low, but I definitely think there's a story there to be told. What do you guys think?
How do you rank the coming back qualifier? If he came back in a comic or book, would you count it? Do you want him to come back exclusively in
That's
live action?
good
Could it
question.
be animation?
I
Because Sam
would-
Jackson is what, 70 now? He
Ooh, I don't know.
Oh,
It's
he's
a
a-
bold
he
statement,
looks
though, my
great,
friend.
though.
he
That man
does look
doesn't
great,
age.
but I mean, we all.
And if he came back, he'd be scarred anyway, so I feel like it would almost make it better.
That's true. You could say he like broke his legs and never healed right. And that's why he can't move very well.
Or his
He's
face.
74.
74.
He's 74?
Yeah.
So if we
Wow.
do this like
Get
right
going
now,
on it.
yeah, there's no way.
Yeah.
they gotta
I mean, if they
book
did
that
this right
soon.
now, it would still be, what, like 2 years until we actually even saw it, which means
So if Dave
70
Filoni stops listening to our podcast and calls up Kathleen Kennedy, literally gets the ball rolling today, I think it'll still be too late.
after Max did his pitch, it was just like, I'm not going to take this seriously. I think Filoni stopped listening.
No, our pitches brought him back in. He said, if there's one more bad pitch.
There's one more. Yeah, I think I was kind of considering more live action, like a TV show or a movie or something like that.
Sorry, that was a bit mean-spirited. I did like your pitch, for the record.
Oh, no, so did I.
It was, no, I did not take that as mean-spirited because I prefaced my whole pitch by saying I know this is a little bit out there.
But
so.
it wasn't nearly as out there. Not that we need to relitigate this. Also, I always feel like we should talk a little bit more up front, because I feel like once we get into it, even though these episodes are so long.
Because
I
we
gotta
have so
settle
much
in.
to talk about. We got to settle in. All right, Matthew, how was your day today? Live
That's how
action.
it's so
Mace
different.
Windu.
Mace Windu. I mean, I'd be fine seeing Mace Windu. I feel like there is such an affinity to the prequels, but the prequels. But to be honest, I don't know if I would like to see him back in live action. It just feels like there's too many people being brought back, like from that era, that it almost just would make the prequel era like null and void a little bit. Where it's like, oh, anything you're watching in these, it won't matter because Qui-Gon comes back as a Force ghost, but like he does die in those movies. But like if Mace Windu came back too, it'd be like, okay, so Palpatine returns, Mace Windu returns, Qui-Gon Jinn comes back as a Force ghost. Like it'd be like, who else do we
Darth
got over?
Maul.
Yeah, Darth Maul, exactly. So I feel like that'd be like one too many. It already is one too many.
I also want, I don't think he's on my list, but Count Dooku. Maybe Count Dooku can come back, but he can be like the, who's the character in Futurama that's just like the head in the glass tank?
Nixon.
Nixon, yeah.
I was like, am I being? I was like, is this a trick question? There is multiple people like that, but yeah, Nixon is the.
Oh, are there multiple characters
Yeah.
in Futurama like that?
I think they have like the Ramones or something in one of the episodes where they like have,
Interesting.
which is very funny.
I am not a Futurama viewer. I couldn't tell you.
What
Futurama,
about,
very good?
I'm just going to throw this out there. What about Mace Windu returning in animation for The Bad Batch? Because that takes place like relatively after that.
Yes, that would be fine.
I don't see a narrative purpose for it. What would Mace Windu come back to do? To hunt down Darth Vader because he's so mad, fall to the dark side, and then not do anything against Darth Vader
He could be
again?
like-
That doesn't sound like a great story
I
to you.
don't know. We
I could
we've
have
gotten a lot of
goosebumps.
that.
I wouldn't mind if it made sense era wise, right? But I feel like after Revenge of the Sith, no more Mace. I
You
feel
think
like.
anymore it'll be overstaying his welcome?
I think so. And again, Sam Jackson's 74, and I'm just like, really like him as a character, right? We all do. Well, okay.
He's
so
definitely in my top 10 members of the Jedi Council.
let me rephrase. We all like his lightsaber a lot.
Oh yeah, definitely got a purple lightsaber.
Okay,
as,
there
as
we
a
go.
character, I find him inconsistent and rude, and I don't
yes.
know. I'd be fine without seeing him again.
He's like a terrible shift manager when you're like working a job in high school, when you're like,
yeah.
lay off, dude.
They just
But
announced
the
a
management loves him because he drives profits.
that's exactly
Yes.
that's exactly who he is.
They just announced a new comic series with Mace Windu.
Yes.
And I am very uninterested in it.
It's because it's like a recognizable character. It's like,
Did they say when it takes place?
I believe
Boy, if
No.
they said post Revenge of the Sith, that would drive interest.
I would know if they said post Revenge of the Sith. It's not that. It's either Clone Wars or before The Phantom Menace, or maybe even between.
What if
I
it
don't
was
know.
even crazier if they announced it took place between lunch and dinner? That specific. The hell does that mean?
On the second day of the Clone Wars.
A lot happens within those 4 hours or so.
All right. I'm gonna segue that, since we mentioned the Bad Batch, into the next one, which is Tech. We've talked about this, I think, on one of our first episodes, actually, Tech's death. Do you
Alleged
want
death.
to see Tech back? Do you think we'll see Tech back?
Tech's my favorite. I still feel like I'm just going to go with my original theory and just hold to it, even though it's not going to happen, even though I consistently say on this podcast not to boast your expectations because it'll set you up for failure. And I don't want this to happen, but I still feel like we will see a bad version of Tech versus the actual Tech coming back. I don't think we'll see him again in the normal Bad Batch group. I think he is done.
I think that we will see him again. But I'm torn because in my head, the way they'll bring him back is the exact same thing that they did with Echo, where he was
Yeah.
presumed killed and then captured by the Separatists and turned into a cyborg. And that
They already
seems
did it, yeah.
very similar to what this guy I forget his name. Admiral Rampart is the not the guy that found Tech's goggles, but that character from the Bad Batch, he seems like his motivations would align very similarly to what the people that took Echo and did with him
Yeah.
were feeling. So I'm not worried that they're gonna completely redo that, but I think that they're going to do something along those lines, and we will see Tech again. Because you always say that them showing us Tech's goggles is like proof that Tech is not coming back, and I'd argue that that is proof that he is coming
Yes,
back.
because it's not a body.
Because they found the body and explicitly didn't give it to them. They could have like brought his head or something. I know it's dark for a kid show, but
That is very dark.
I'll have an
This one episode of Bad Batch is TVMA.
I'll give an asterisk to my answer, and by saying I do think we'll see him in flashbacks for sure in season 3.
oh, that'll be
So
great. That'll be nice.
That's a good caveat for,
Yeah.
I think, all of the next people that we're going to talk about, too, because I do think there's a chance that we see literally everyone on this list taking place in an era before their death or presumed death, right?
Yeah.
Because that's the nice thing about Star Wars, is it jumps all over the timeline. It's not like chronological.
yes, the thing that we all love is the is the unorganization of.
No, it's not that it's
I know.
unorganized.
It kind of is what I love. It's a big part of
No,
what
same.
I love.
Yeah, I do agree. So we can see different things. Do you have another one on your list, Max, or can I jump in and just say 2 things real quick?
No, go for it.
You know who I want to see the most out of anybody.
Oh, God, give me a second.
I would have guessed Tech. Oh
No.
no, I saw your list. It's Zeb.
It's Zeb.
Oh, my God.
I was just waiting for Luke to be pissed.
I
The
saw
guy's
that
not
on-
even dead, but he's dead to you just because you
I-
didn't see him in Ahsoka.
Well,
I
He's
saw
not-
that
he's
on your
not-
list and
wait.
chuckled before we even started recording.
Do these
because
people need to be dead?
No one cares about Zeb. I mean,
No, not necessarily.
Okay, good. I think Zeb and Callus though, because I do feel like it'd be interesting to see what they're
Callus is a good prompt because
Yeah.
Callus was left off in such a way that his character's pretty much done. I would
Yeah.
be shocked if we ever see him again. I would
Yeah.
say we're not going to see him again, but I would love to see him again.
what do you mean
Yeah.
Zeb and Callus together? Like
No,
a
not together.
romantic kind of thing?
doing. Oh my God, you and the romantic people. There's something in your life when you watch Rebels that you just shipped everyone together.
Shin Hati and Sabine Wren are not getting together, Luke.
I am definitely oh man, I saw
A
what
shiphead?
what the name of their particular ship was. It was either Shabiti or something like that. I don't know. It was a great ship.
Sounds like a
name,
hibachi
but
restaurant.
I do ship Shinati and Sabine. They're gonna get married and love each other romantically.
No, I would like to see Zeb and Callus. I think, like you said, they kind of left Callus, right? It makes a lot of sense that he'd probably not be shown again. But in Star Wars, there's a lot of people we don't really need to see again that we see again. And I feel like,
Yeah.
why not just show Callus?
fair.
It doesn't make much sense in the fact that it's like you would have to cast somebody to like be that person with like a kind of a storyline that's wrapped up. But at the same time, it's like, what does he do afterwards? You know, I feel like.
That's interesting. I haven't thought about that, and this is going to sound super stupid if I'm wrong, but isn't Callus voiced by a black man?
Oh, I have no idea, to be honest.
I don't think so, but I guess I don't know who he is voiced by.
I thought he was for some reason.
I'll pull it
Fact
up.
check.
That's too
Please do,
interesting.
because if he's not, I think I'm going to have to cut this from the episode.
No.
Because if that is the case, that's like, well,
Really hard.
unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get you to play this person.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry.
yeah.
Callus could be a character that just like appears in the background of a random scene in Ahsoka on her flagship, and like a visual dictionary could just point out, oh, by the way, this is Callus.
That's
And those
true,
are the kind of
yeah.
inclusions that I always want to see, but surprisingly never do.
Yeah.
Like, it's not exactly how it happened with the Nick Sance being Rex in the Battle of Endor. You know, that guy that was with Han
Yeah,
when
yeah.
he turned around and he looks like Captain Rex, but he was a canon named character
Mhm.
before Rebels. Nick Sance, it was his name because it was like Saint Nick, and George Lucas is very low effort when naming people.
Sometimes.
I imagine he wrote that on December 24th. I feel like Callus. So you're also talking like in the ending of Rise of Skywalker. You're kind of seeing like the ghost in the background. Be like, oh, they
Yeah.
were there.
Or in
But then-
Rogue One, yeah.
With that being said, I wouldn't mind. I still feel like in Ahsoka, the next season and whenever, I do feel like there's going to be some sort of call to arms for the rest of the group, right? And so originally thinking it was a mini series potentially, I was like, okay, well they're not going to. I mean, I wouldn't say that I didn't think they were going to not have them in there because you can listen to our episodes where I consistently say, okay, next episode's the episode. But I think like as it became more apparent, I think it's like, oh, there's more story to tell, so they're probably not going to waste every single person. We did get that glimpse of Zeb in Mandalorian, so there's a potential had to have him in Ahsoka season 2, and then same thing with Callus, where it's just kind of like, oh, a call to arms with every single person to come back. And like, why wouldn't Callus, after kind of being owing them so much, I think too, would come back? It would make sense story wise. Unlike Mace Windu, who story wise very muddied, I feel like Callus could make sense.
I feel like they could also do his own thing with him too, where they try to salvage some of the ideas from Rangers of the New Republic,
Oh yeah,
which was supposed to be led by Cara Dune before she was written off. And I feel like some of those plots were kind of like interwoven there at the end of Mandalorian season 3, and I wouldn't be surprised if Zeb is involved in that.
yeah.
I looked it up, and I am shocked that I did not know this. He's voiced by David Oyelowo, who is not just a black man, but is Martin Luther King in Selma, and
Whoa,
multiple other very high budget movies. Like
The Good
he's a-
Reverend.
yeah, he's a famous actor.
yeah,
I can't believe I didn't know that.
that's crazy. Man, now I'm just never gonna unhear that. I feel like.
I know.
That's so funny. Like I'm replaying Callus's voice in my head now and be like, yeah, that actually tracks.
Well, I'm glad that we don't have to cut that from the podcast.
Well,
Very
yeah, because we
interesting
talked a
fact.
lot about it.
All right. Kind of a meme, kind of not at this point, but Palpatine. How do we feel about him coming back again?
I feel
Hurt me one more time.
You're ready for it? You're ready to be hurt again?
No, I kid. I think if you don't think now is good enough, when will it ever be? You know.
yeah.
Matt, what do you think?
I don't. I think I've always said this is the same thing as it's the Palpatine saga as much as it is the Skywalker saga. And if we're closing that chapter to a degree, I think we should move on from both of those characters. I don't want to say lineage because obviously we're getting the Rey movie and stuff too, but
Well, she's a Skywalker, so that doesn't really apply.
true, true, I guess. But audible, like,
Matt Sigh said it all. I don't know about bringing Palpatine back, but like after his most recent death. But I think
exactly.
I think there's
Odd
definitely
qualifier.
I think there's definitely some holes left from the sequel trilogy and The Rise of Skywalker specifically that I would love to see filled in the future. And mostly everything revolving around Palpatine, how he came back, what's going on in Exegol, how he
Yeah.
amassed the Sith fleet and the Sith cultists I want to know more about and stuff like that.
I mean, I wouldn't mind him being a minor character, like a Darth Sidious type movie or show or something. But besides that, I don't know if I do have as much interest in seeing. Again, I feel like everything you're saying, that I'm like, as I'm saying, like maybe I don't. I actually do, but I feel like that's perfect, like animated series material.
I would love to see that in an animated series, even something less than that though. Like
Comic?
it could be a comic, it could be
Yeah.
a book.
That's true. I'm just thinking for some reason feature movies for all of these.
Yeah, it's
a lot easier for characters to return in a comic or a book, but I feel like it
Yes.
happens almost less frequently. Like when they bring back a character, they want to make a big to-do of
Yeah.
it.
It does, and I listen to interviews with some of the comic authors, and I feel like they always they can't really talk about their ideas that get shut down even all the time.
I would love to hear that though.
And I think it's because they still kind of hold out hope that maybe they can do it in the future. But they do oftentimes talk about how like, oh yeah, I had this idea to like for a certain character to come back, but then when we like shipped it off to Lucasfilm for approval, they said no. So like kind of like hinting at like, oh well, maybe we'll use them in a future project.
Yeah.
But I feel like for them to use them in a comic, because that's kind of like the lowest like form, the lowest level of canon right now,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I feel like Lucasfilm has to be absolutely confident that they're going to do nothing else with this character in the future.
Yeah, that's
which
true.
is partly why I was so disappointed that Kira made a return in comics. So let's talk about her for a second, because at the end of Solo, obviously she had a bigger story to be told that was kind of hinted at. She's not dead.
Yeah.
Even after the War of the Bounty Hunters comic series that she was in, she's still alive post Return of the Jedi. So we could see her again, but that's kind of one of those characters where even though she's not dead, she was just kind of left off in such a way that I don't think we'll ever see her again in live action. Maybe we'll get another book with her, another comic with her or something, but I would love to see more of her in live action, but I don't think we're going to get it.
I don't know. Part of me thinks like the other side of things is like Emilia Clarke's career, to be honest. Not that it's like dwindling or anything, but I feel like she tried a lot of things after Game of Thrones, and Game of Thrones obviously was a huge piece that you can't really beat. And a lot of people in that show, I don't want to say didn't make it out, but like Jason Momoa clearly was the biggest. He had a great, he had the, oh my God, I cannot talk today, but he got out soon enough that it became a bigger thing when he left. And I feel like Emilia Clarke has had a really hard time being able to adjust, and he's going back to action movies. Like when she was in Terminator Genesis or Terminator Genesis, I remember this when names look stupid. That's how it like is spelled, or like Fan Forstick.
I was just about to
Same
say
era.
Fan
We need to bring that bad quality movie back again. But I think like she tried to do that as Sarah Connor, and it just didn't work. And so I can't really name another movie she's in.
I know. I recently saw a TikTok that she's been she's been like included in every single major franchise you can think of, and it's just been the worst installment of every single major franchise.
And
not for any fault of her own.
No.
It's just her own bad luck, and
Besides
it
Solo.
does suck. But besides Solo,
But I do
yeah,
feel like
so-
there's opportunity for her to come back. Sorry, that was the only thing I was going to say. Was I do feel like that is
And-
an opening.
You said a couple weeks ago in your Rogue One about comics that she survives the original trilogy era, and that we know that she's around like the New Republic era. So she can come back then, and
Yeah.
similar to what I've said about Kenobi before, that that could be in another 10, 20 years, and she'll age into the role, and canonically it
Yeah.
would make sense, and we could
Yeah.
always come back to it.
I feel like she potentially would be open, and I feel like as a character for everybody, everyone likes her, right? Like I don't think I've ever met anybody that's like, oh yeah, Solo is a great movie, but Kira's the worst part, or like, oh I hate Solo and every single character was like, I don't think anybody has ever said that. I don't know. I just feel like it's maybe across the board, like, yeah, we all like her.
What's interesting is even in the projects where people don't like her character, they still give Emilia Clarke credit.
Yeah.
Like I feel like at the end of Game of Thrones, everyone was like, "Oh, this isn't fair for Emilia Clarke. She loved this character. She
Yes.
did her absolute best with it."
Yeah.
It's a shame that she was just like kind of written poorly towards the end.
Yes.
And same thing with the other thing that I was going to say that we forgot to talk about.
That she's in.
Secret Invasion, yeah, the Marvel TV show.
Oh,
Secret
yes.
Invasion.
Yeah,
She
I was
like,
trying
the main
really
bad
I
hard
in that
forgot
one.
about her
And
weird Hulk
Again,
arm. Yeah.
Secret Invasion is like I think it's like the worst rated MCU show right now.
That's
but
what
again,
I was talking
I've heard
about when I said
decent things about like her in it. but
Yeah.
people are just like, oh yeah, but the show's terrible.
So bring her back, and maybe the comics is a little bit of a bit of a hint to be like, hey, let's test the waters with this. We kind of got some plans, so let's just see how this goes. Versus bringing her back and just out of nowhere.
I don't think we'll see her for a long time if we do, but if we recorded this episode 3 years ago and we said we want to see Emilia Clarke back, we would have said that we would be happy to see her in comics. And she didn't just come back in comics. I mean, she had 3 major crossovers revolve around her. She came back in a major way. So we also have to be thankful for what we've gotten. She did come back, and it was
Yeah.
great.
That's true. Yeah, it's not to be ungrateful. It's just to say that we love her character so much. All right, moving on to a next one that I had. Kylo Ren / Ben Solo.
He is a Force ghost. I would love desperately to see him in the Rey movie. I think there's no chance Adam Driver will come back, though.
I think that's the biggest thing. Is I don't think Adam Driver. And to be honest, I don't know if I would want him to come back because Adam Driver is such a good actor, and not that Star Wars is above him, but Yeah, man, maybe I do. Damn it, because I'm just like Ian McGregor is also great, and he's a joy every single time I see him on screen. So, I also don't know if he would. But again, if he does become Reed Richards in Fantastic Four, which I feel like is a sinking ship, like to bring in MCU for the first time in this episode, like we always do. I'm like not a sinking ship, but I'm just like I don't know if Fantastic Four, the property that has been historically not a success, is going to be the rise back up to MCU. Maybe it is. But either way, I feel like if he's attaching himself as Reed Richards in Fantastic Four, I do think there's hope for him to come back, actually.
I thought that he was no longer doing that, though. I thought I heard that
That is a high possibility. I feel like I've been living in
we've
the
talked
cave
about
for a
that
while.
before,
Yeah.
and I thought I saw like a couple weeks later that was no longer happening.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, a lot of rumors surrounding it. I'm not totally up to date on my Marvel rumors, so I don't know if that has ever
Surprisingly,
been
with how
announced
much
or
we
not.
talk about it.
I know that's the thing. We talk about it with no new knowledge.
It just
we
comes
just
up.
mention it because it's just like, oh yeah, this thing that is like a massive machine.
It's applicable though because the Marvel universe is like the next closest thing. It's just easy
Sorry.
to draw comparisons. to.
We'll mention like the Tim Burton Batman era next time, which I love.
One more thing. If Kylo Ren Ben Solo did come back, I think Adam Driver is more likely to do it because it would be playing Ben Solo as opposed to Kylo Ren,
Yes.
which I think he would be more interested in.
Because it's a new
But
interesting
also,
character.
I think the fans would like that less because
Yes.
it'll be jarring
Besides
and they
us.
won't understand. Yeah,
yeah.
Because he has no dialogue as Ben Solo outside of "ow."
exactly. He smiled that one time, but he was basically acting the same way as Kylo
But
Ren.
wow, what a smile,
Just like his daddy. He did. He had so many mannerisms that were the same. In that 2-minute clip of him as Ben Solo, he absolutely killed it.
Man,
He
yeah,
did.
I do. The one thing in Rise of Skywalker, I do wish he was in the ending battle more. Like when he flies back, I'm like, oh, he's not coming back for a long time, like a long while. It is a
When
bummer.
Palpatine pushes him
Yeah,
off the cliff.
because I do want to see him just more as Ben Solo. But
I would like to see a animated short or something of those in the universe. What, like 8-9 minutes of him climbing back up that cliff? That's got to be exhausting. For
that's
him.
the director's cut. It's
With
just
7 broken ribs.
right.
That's such an annoying trope in movies, though, because as soon as Palpatine flung him with the Force, like everyone in the audience knew, like, okay, he's not dead yet.
yes,
He'll be back.
that's the equivalent of an encore. You're like, okay, I'm clapping, but like,
Right.
I honestly,
Don't
as
make
a-
me work too hard for
Yeah.
it. I know you're coming back on stage.
I no longer clap it out for encores. I'm like, I know your game.
Yeah.
I
it's old.
know you set aside 15 minutes. But yeah, I think honestly the same thing is I think that Ben Solo coming back would be great in the Rey movie specifically. Perfect opportunity. I'm not sure if I want anything else besides him being a Force ghost. But I would like a Knights of Ren thing.
That would be cool, but again, there's a lot of that in the comics, and
yeah, and that's a
I'm
perfect place
pretty
for
satisfied with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. This is going off topic, but speaking of encores, the first concert I
The
ever
Muse?
went to that didn't have an encore was the Taylor Swift Eras tour, and
it. Yes. Oh my god.
everyone was
You-
making fun of me because as soon as it was over, I was like, "Is there gonna be like an
Yeah,
encore?" And people
well-
are like, "She just played for 3 hours,"
And to-
and I'm like, "Well, usually there's an encore." I
There's
don't
literally
know.
credits rolling right now.
and to give him more of an insight, that person was me. It was just Max and I. And so Max was like, so what do you think the encore is going to be? He's like, there's no encore.
I've never been to a show without an encore. I didn't know what to make of it.
Well, like this whole experience has been like 9 hours. Yeah, I was like, this is it, Maxwell.
That goes to
It's
my
late.
point. She couldn't have just done a couple more songs.
Yeah.
What's another 2? All right. Anyway, let's talk about another character who is definitely not dead, but through very unfortunate circumstances is left with a question mark, and that is Balin Skull.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even put a question mark there. We'll see him again. I'm not worried about it. They'll recast him or do him with CG. Either way, it'll be kind of a bummer, but his
Don't
character is
CG.
too
Just
important.
recast him.
I know. I think they'll recast him
People,
too.
I get annoyed when people are like, "Oh, it's like you got to like honor his legacy. You can't recast him." And it's like, well, let's calm
is
down
that
a little bit,
dishonorable?
all right? Like, first of all, he played who everyone loved, but was still a minor side character.
Yeah.
In this TV show, he didn't really have that much screen time. The screen time that he had, he stole the show, but it's not like Harrison Ford is Han Solo, which again was recasted and I thought was done pretty well. Or
true.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, they recasted him, did it pretty well. I
Darth
think
Vader did it 3 times in one movie.
interesting. I think you can definitely get away with recasting him, and I think that you should.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be a problem in terms of them deciding to do it, because I think Ahsoka season 2 is already rumored to be in production. So hopefully it'll happen sooner than later, and I think they'll recast him. I think the other actor will be undoubtedly worse, but I mean, Ray Stevenson just crushed it so hard that everyone will just be able to like shrug it off and be like, well, you couldn't have done it as well, but we needed someone to do it. So
I don't know. I
thanks.
don't know if it'll definitely be worse. Who are the two actors that plays Dumbledore?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because the first guy was perfect, and then the second guy was even better.
Yeah, I think the second guy was better. And that's so bad I can't think of either of the
I
names
know. I
right
should
now.
know them
And
too.
I like the movies a lot. I still feel like Balin Skull, yes. I still have a feeling they'll do the rest of his journey from good tricky editing and camera angles where you see him, it looks like him from the back, from the side. They could use footage of him, unused footage from him, even from the front, walking a couple times, so you'll see him, and then not like a Lazarus pit or something, but like I just feel like they'll change his appearance somehow. So maybe he'll wear a mask. Maybe he'll.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, I feel like I said this last time, and I feel like no one understood what I was saying in the fact that it'll be a different actor, but not like, again, I feel like they'll change his appearance in some way, so because especially nowadays, it's so hard to recast somebody and just have the audience expect it. I mean, think about like, even watching Ahsoka from week to week, people were like, oh, why did they do this, they did that, and it's like, no, it's like you have to build the show. So I just have a feeling if they're sensing that in a show that they're very confident about, I just don't know if they're going to be like, this is going to be Balin Skull now. It's just like somebody that looks adjacent to him. I just think they're going to change his appearance overall. Yeah, I mean, Balin Skull seems so interesting. He seems like the future of Star Wars villains. Obviously, it is a big part of it. And he went from minor character to clearly being the overarching villain once Morgan died.
And there's still enough mystery surrounding his mission that you're right. They could do something like, the next time we see him, he will have gotten to that destination that we saw at the end, and he unleashed whatever, and it released this wave of energy, and it horribly disfigured his face.
Exactly.
And he's messed up. I don't know.
I feel like something like that is plausible.
I think that's plausible too. I wouldn't be that upset if they went that way.
Yeah,
I think they can make that work.
All right, let's talk about another one on the list, and that is a duo that I put together: Cad Bane and Cobb Vanth. From the end of the Book of Boba Fett. I put the odds of a season 2 for the Book of Boba Fett as very slim, which is unfortunate because I don't know how else we will see Cobb Vanth and Cad Bane. But they were left off in such a way that I feel like they're both coming back.
What do you mean you don't know? Mandalorian season 4.
I was going to say the same thing.
They
or
fit right in.
The New Republic movie as well, since that's a culmination. I feel like there's like two.
Oh yeah, or that.
Really, two options. I don't think like
Was
obviously
Tatooine part of the New Republic? It
Luke,
wasn't
please
part
do
of
please do the Tem voice.
Tatooine.
Tatooine.
But Cobb Vanth doesn't need, or excuse me, I always mix up their names. Cad Bane does not need to be on Tatooine.
Yeah.
Cobb Vanth does briefly, but he could leave Tatooine. Freetown is pretty self-sufficient at this point. I will say their deputy is a bumbling idiot, so can't really leave it with him. But they could
Wait, what
include
deputy?
The deputy that was there with Cobb Vanth when he got shot.
Yes.
Is he still alive? I thought
Yeah.
I thought he got himself killed.
I think
did he get himself
he
killed?
died.
Oh, thank God. Good. Freetown's better without anyone.
But they have a bartender still.
Yeah, that Nikto.
That's what I thought you were talking about
Yes.
at first. I was like, oh, I like that guy. Yeah.
I think Cobb Vanth. I mean, yeah, I want to see Cobb Vanth. I think Timothy Olyphant is having like not even a resurgence because he never really went away. But I feel like people just found out how to pronounce his last name, and I feel like are really taking advantage of it because it justified. And so I feel like the justifies revival rather. But I feel like Cobb Vanth, 10 out of 10. Would love to see again. As I think you said, you're hungry for him or thirsty for him. I can't remember what you said.
Yeah, I said something like that.
or-
I had also said that the Cad Bane practical mask is too sophisticated and good looking for them not to use it again. So
1000% agree.
That's true. Luke is going to get mad at me because I probably said this on pod already. But when
Matt's
we
the one
were,
that gets mad at you about this.
I gotta point it out.
One of you
I meant
two.
to hop on the train though because we should not recycle too much content.
Well-
What are you going to say again?
when we went to Star Wars Celebration, it was right after Book of Boba Fett, and they had like a bunch of the stuff on display, and they had the animatronic head, and you can like see how it worked and stuff, and it was crazy.
Yeah, a ton
Damn.
of electronics.
That's sweet.
Yeah. Matt, you would have been freaked out.
I was gonna say, you didn't tell me this. I actually that would freak me out. Again, I do sometimes YouTube videos of like animatronic dinosaurs, like people walking by them and stuff, just to freak myself out.
You're a
you know?
masochist.
Yeah.
The Cobb Vanth, excuse me, the Cad Bane mask was so cool looking at that gallery display
Mhm.
because it also had like almost all the costumes from The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. But when you're at Star Wars Celebration, there's 15 cosplayers within eyesight that have a costume that's just as good. But then you see the mask and it's like, whoa, okay,
Mhm.
this is professional. This is different.
Yeah, that is cool. Man, I'm jealous.
All right. Well, since we briefly mentioned Mandalorian, let's talk about Moff Gideon. We kind of mentioned him again, I think, on one of the first episodes we ever did. So we can just kind of gloss over this one pretty quick. But Moff Gideon, what do you think are the odds of us seeing him again? And do you want to see him again?
Is all I'll
There was
say.
a lot of people. There was a lot of people talking about how he could have been a clone. He could have survived that explosion in his
Yeah.
armor, like right after season 3 of The Mandalorian. And I have heard absolutely nothing about it since. I feel like people are over him. Like maybe it'll come up again
Yeah.
when they drop a Mandalorian season 4 trailer or any news at all about it. But even myself, really, he was a fine character while he was around,
Yeah.
but I don't miss him. I'm not
That's
to
yes.
differ him from Cobb Vanth. I'm not hungry for more Moff Gideon.
That's the thing is I feel like in the first season you're like he was barely a villain, but he was like an evil presence, and you're like, oh, something big's gonna happen, and then he wasn't in season 2, right?
He was, but barely.
And then in season 3,
He's in all 3 seasons barely.
exactly, and that's
He's
the
in like
thing.
6 or 7 episodes total of the 24.
And that's you're right. And then but that's the thing is that he never really builds to anything. We're just expecting to be like he's a bad guy, so bad, right? And it doesn't really even the ending is a cool fight, it's a cool thing, but it doesn't really hold any gravity to me. And Esposito is he's a great actor, obviously. I mean, Breaking Bad, which, he does so much more than that even. And he's great, literally every single thing he does. He's great as Moff Gideon. And I feel like he was a little bit wasted in it, like, just because he is such a great actor. And I feel like in season 1, you really have that gravitas of him. And then by season 3, you're like, oh, I guess he's grown as a character, but I never really knew him as a character, so it doesn't really matter. So, to be honest, I think there's no need to build him out anymore. I'd say the chances of him coming back could be potentially cloned by, I think, like Luke just said, general consensus is like, whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't have any need to see him again, personally.
That's an interesting way to put it. I kind of agree, where he was a little like underdeveloped or underutilized, but
Yeah.
at the same time appropriately stayed his welcome. Like
Yes.
when he was killed off, everyone kind of had that feeling
Yeah.
of like, okay, good. Like he's,
But, like,
he's gone now. We
season
can move on to other things.
As we always talk about, introducing more storylines. How much more interesting would it have been if we followed Gideon from his perspective? Because it wasn't like a huge mystery that was like, oh, whoa, they're building this thing. I mean, that was revealed, but how much more interesting would have been as we as the audience knew that the entire time and Mando finds out.
Yeah.
All you need to do is switch a couple like little story elements, and all of a sudden it's like really interesting that he's building this thing, and so we're going through this journey with them both together. So when he ends up dying, it actually is affected because we were spending hours with him versus, I don't even know, 40 minutes, if that total.
Mm-hmm.
And they were so close because they had that it was like the second or third episode that followed, what's her name?
Elia Kane.
Elia Kane.
Yeah, yes.
Who was working for him. And then the coolest scene in all of season 3 was Moff Gideon addressing the Shadow Council.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I would have loved to have seen more than that.
I always think about the writing in that scene with her when she calls him, and he's
She
like,
says she's in a hurry.
Yes.
Or he says
He's
he's
like-
in a hurry.
And make it quick because I am in a hurry.
yes, because you do that voice and it's spot on. I always think about your impression of that because I'm just like that is how else would you deliver that line? He says it convincingly, and even then it's hard
Yeah.
to be like, you know.
The last thing I have to say about Moff Gideon returning is that it would be nice for them to make better on the teases of all the cloning stuff because
Yeah.
throughout seasons 1 and 2 when they would tease us with the cloning vats and this and that,
Yeah.
it was really exciting, like, oh, they're going to tie into the First Order and maybe Palpatine and maybe Snoke, and then it ended up just being, oh, it was Moff Gideon's clones and now they're
Yeah.
all dead. So okay.
And
So
there we go.
if they did come back, it would make good on that, which would be more exciting. But again, I think take it or leave it.
Yeah,
Probably leave it.
Right? Exactly. None of us were. Even in Mace Windu, we had a more intriguing conversation. Well, not intriguing conversation because I think this conversation might be a little more interesting. But like,
Well, I think every conversation we have is very intriguing, personally.
that's true. You should rate us 5 out of 5 too. Is that what Spotify are running these out of?
At the end of the day, this is worth listening to.
All right, let's talk a little bit about.
Our producer's waving us on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. All right. Moving on. Let's talk about the Grand Inquisitor. So we saw his fate at the end of season 1 of Rebels, and I feel like he fell down an endless pit. So again, not really confirmed death. In Obi-Wan Kenobi, he did come back from the dead, so he's got that going for him once already. And his last line was kind of cryptic, where he says some things are worse than death, and it's like, what's worse than death? Is it life? Is he gonna like come back somehow? I don't know. I think it's open ended.
Well, are you going to talk about his moment in the comics?
No, when is he in the in the Rise of Kylo Ren?
No, in I think the 20. I'm not going to pull out the date. The second Star Wars mainline in between episodes 5 and 6. Luke Skywalker sees him as like a trapped in the Force, tortured Grand Inquisitor, and he's like all shrouded in flame, and he's like a ghost, but not really alive or dead. He's not a Force ghost proper, but he's definitely not dead. And
Okay. No, I do not remember that, but that makes sense with his last line. That some things are worse than death. He's like in between life and death. He's being tortured in all of eternity. Sith hell. That's brutal.
My Sith hell would be just on an airplane, not in the air, just
What?
grounded.
oh, forever.
The worst place on earth. At 4 a.m. Oh.
You just don't like airplanes, or it's just that feeling of like, can we just take off already? We're doing
Yes,
this
it's
thing on a
that feeling
tarmac
of,
for
can we
6
just take
hours.
off? My back hurts. I can't really stand up.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Being crammed next to some fatso next to me.
and
Ma-
I am the fatso. What the
Max doesn't really have to struggle with this as a short king, but you and I, Matt, are
Whoa,
just tall
that's
enough
true.
that it's like annoying to be on a plane, but not so tall that people give us sympathy.
For the audience's perspective as well, since you've never seen us on video, Luke and I are both 6'5", and Max is 5'4".
I am 6 feet tall when rounding up to the nearest whole inch.
And Matt and I
Yeah.
are like 6'6'1", so
Yeah.
it's not very different. But
But for some reason, when we took photos together, I was always sitting on the small chair. So in the photos, I look even shorter yet.
How about
Yeah,
when
and
we're
when-
all standing up next to each
and when
other?
we're
and you're also
standing, we're
shorter?
always on a hill, and Max is on the bottom of the hill.
Okay.
Just unlucky.
No, look, we have receipts out there. We have an Instagram. Go check out our Instagram. Look at the photos. You can see they put me on the small chair for some reason. We're about the same height.
What picture are you talking about in chairs?
There's we have the helmets around us.
Oh, okay.
There's 3 stools. 2 of them are the same height, which you 2 sat on, and then there was one shorter one in the middle that for some reason we thought it was a good idea for me to take.
Shout out to Dan Steeman, who took those photos.
F you, Dan.
As a-
Well, thank you for the photos, but I think you told me to sit there, so F you.
You're a good middler, I think, is the thing too.
I'm a good middle.
Yeah, you're a good middle. You know, your eye goes to you, and I feel like I'm a good side person. That you're like, that should be the main character, but why isn't he?
You're the side character that everyone's always more interested in. You're the Balin Skull of our crew. Everyone's
Exactly.
like, tell me more about that guy. What is his
Exactly.
mission?
Exactly.
Why
Yeah.
won't he say what he's doing?
Why won't he say what he's doing? Yeah, that is kind of my mo.
All right, moving on. Let's talk about Luke. I believe you added this one to the list, probably for yourself. And it's Kit Fisto.
Well,
I
it
feel
doesn't
like
matter
his-
who added him to the list, but it's important that we talk about him because we were saying you don't necessarily have to see people post their implied or even explicit death, just more content about them in general.
Yeah.
And yes, please.
I mean, I am all about it too. Like,
Why are we getting a Mace Windu comic series
That's
and not
true.
a Kit Fisto comic series?
I also feel like the only downside of him appearing in any sort of like media would be the accent, to be honest.
Make it a comic then. Win-win.
Because you'd still read it in your
Oh,
head.
It
Tell
just
me-
gets thicker and thicker as the comic goes on.
Tell me you wouldn't want a live action Kid Fisto again, though.
I mean, of course I would, and if I got to make all the decisions in the world, that would be the first one I decided on.
I mean, I also would like to see Kid Fisto actually too, because like you know, as a kid when the prequels were coming out, you're like, that is the coolest looking character.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the prequel era has had such a resurgence in the last, well, I guess now it's like 7 years,
Mm-hmm.
but we keep getting like more and more stories, and I'm going to keep bringing up this Mace Windu comic because I'm just shocked that it's getting made, but like there's also a Yoda comic that just came out, and all the just most already well fleshed out and
Yeah.
included characters in the era. And you know, they had like the Age of Republic, and it's like, oh, did you want another Padme and another Obi-Wan and another Anakin story? And it's like, on the one hand, yes, but please just give me some of these other really interesting Jedi that we don't see as
Yeah.
often.
That comic is getting some love though.
Which
it's
one?
The Yoda one, the newest Yoda one.
Yeah, I've read some. It is good. But
I've heard
I'm
it's
not-
good.
I mean,
I
I'm
haven't-
not faulting it for its quality. Just its existence. The inception of the concept is flawed in my mind.
I 1000% agree. But like the Yoda is at least an interesting character that has a lot of layers. I mean, we see him very stoic and we see him very goofy towards the end of his life. But then like Mace Windu, even in the Clone Wars, is like one note.
Windu. I don't know why that struck me.
You don't like where you put the accent?
No. I can't even think. I can't even think straight. Mace, say it again with Mace Windu.
No, I can't. I can't. I'm not going to.
He put the accent in the wrong place in such a way that you'd think Christopher Walken in saying his name.
Yeah, you're just practicing your walking impression.
That's true. Christopher Walken singing Foo Fighters is so good. Have you guys seen that when he's announcing?
Yes,
That's
because
it's
Dave
so
Grohl
good.
said it on purpose to
Yes,
him. 'Cause-
yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I wanted to point that out because we did have a listener actually comment. I think it was on YouTube about the most recent Yoda series. I recently did a Rogue One talking about my top 10 favorite moments in comics, and he said that he's enjoying the newest Yoda series, and he actually put one of the moments from that in there in his top 10. So
Yeah, I've been meaning to read it because I hear there's some very brief, albeit High Republic content. So it's
Yeah.
got that's where I get my foot in the door at least.
But yeah, I'm surprised. You think comics are a ripe place to explore some of these more obscure Jedi who only like fans who like I don't know, nerd out about that stuff would appreciate, which I feel like is a lot of overlap with the comic book readers.
Yeah, and there's also the business element where they always, I mean, we've said before they're on their third Darth Vader comic, and those are the best ones, but obviously they're going to make a Darth Vader comic because it's the most recognizable character in all of Star Wars. So same with Mace Windu and same with Yoda,
Yeah.
at least relative to Kit Fisto. And I get that that's a factor, but at some point, can't we just declare success and just give us some Kit Fisto?
Honestly, also, if you saw Kit
That's a
Fisto,
great business pitch. Hey, I know this won't make you any money, but you know what I would love?
No, if you saw Kit Fisto on a comic though, like if you were a kid, that's the comic you're going for, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
yes,
that's
for
the
me.
action figure everyone went for too. He is the Boba Fett of the prequel era.
Yeah. I mean, he is definitely one of the coolest character designs. Him, Plo Koon, Saesee Tin, those are my top 3 Jedi.
I don't think
era.
anybody's giving me enough credit for saying he's the Boba Fett of the prequel era. That's a genius thing I just said.
Yeah, I mean, he is in the sense that no screen time and just
Bad ass.
looks
Sorry.
cool. Yeah.
I put way too much pause between bad and ass.
Just bad. Sorry, it's a compliment actually. It's a good thing that I'm saying.
I can't get over Jango Fett being the Boba Fett of the prequel era, but that's too literal. I know that's not what you meant.
Yeah. New
and,
character.
And it wasn't. Because
he
part of the
wasn't,
reason why
yeah.
Kit Fisto is the Boba Fett of the prequel era is because Boba Fett was a mysterious character.
Mhm.
Jango Fett, we saw a little too much. We liked him, but
No, not too much.
too much to be mysterious.
Too much to fit that
My
archetype.
favorite thing in Attack of the Clones and for Jango Fett is when his armor is just on the floor in the closet. It's like, why is it that neat? Wait, why is it on the floor then? Does you not have a hanger for this?
We keep
I love that.
brushing right up against, but not discussing the Force for Thought I have prepared for the end of the episode.
I'm
I've
so
almost said it
interested.
like 6 or 7 times.
You want to skip to that?
You'll just cut it in later.
We have a couple more left real quick that I want to run through. One of them is another one that I've talked about before on the podcast, Reva. So again, she's alive, but wasn't very well received in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. So I feel like very unlikely that we'll ever see her again in live action. Maybe we'll get a book or a comic or something like that. But I would love to see her again.
Well, I agree. I think we should see her again. I think they should do something more interesting with her. Stick to their guns. Flesh her out a bit more. Don't maybe make her the main character of a villain or a good guy. Just have her start developing as a character more. And I think they should stick to their guns and introduce new characters and really see what they flesh out. Because like we always talk about Ahsoka, right? It's like no one's gonna like you for the first season or so, but then you're eventually gonna be loved. And it's like just stick with characters because you're never gonna see the development if you don't go there.
Yeah.
With how tied the Jedi Survivor video game was with the Kenobi series, I am really holding out hope that she'll be in the third game. She would fit. She would fit right in.
that would
That'd
be
be a good use. Yeah.
perfect use.
Because it would have to be I think from a business standpoint, like I said, she wasn't well received in the Kenobi show, so I don't think they would be able to give her her own spin-off show or movie or anything like that. So it would have to be incorporated into something else that's existing. Maybe they put her in an ensemble cast. Maybe that
Exactly.
cast is other Jedi who are already alive, aka Knights of the Hidden Path. Listen, Lucasfilm. Knights of the Hidden Path. It could work.
It's gonna happen.
All right, let's talk about another one real quick. Hondo Onaka. So he is alive. He spans time. I think the latest we see him is shortly after the events of The Last Jedi at Galaxy's Edge, because that's supposed to be canon.
Yeah.
Or at least it was then.
Yeah, at least it was then.
They haven't addressed how it's definitely not canon anymore.
Yeah,
but I think that's fine to just let that conversation.
I was gonna
be muted.
say he's alive, but also always broken down as animatronic on Galaxy's on Smuggler's Run. I have never seen him as an animatronic. He's always on the screen. He's always broken down when I go.
Really? I've
every
always seen him
single-
as an animatronic.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I've seen it work. It
like
looks awesome.
4 times on Smuggler's Run. Never seen him working.
Bummer.
It's very captivating to see, because the first couple times I watched it, I was like, is that an actor? No, that's a machine. Is that an actor? Like, I kept going back and forth.
I love that.
So they obviously have the costume already. You just go to Disneyland, pick it up. He could fit right into live action. He could fit into any era. I'm surprised we haven't seen him again. I mean, when's the last time we saw him on screen? Would be Rebels, probably 2018. It's been.
Did he ever make an appearance in Bad Batch?
No.
No.
I don't think so. No, he didn't.
Okay.
He didn't.
Then yeah, it must have been Rebels. He was in Rebels.
I also think he'd be perfect live action, to be honest. I think he would actually fit in.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. They have his costume, and he looks good in the animatronic. I mean, they could obviously do it with makeup. Don't make him an animatronic on screen. But yeah, they could put him in live action, no problem. They already have live action Niktos of his same race and species.
Yeah.
He'd be a good side character for like an episode of Mandalorian or something.
Yes, and there's actually, come to think of it, there's no way he's not going to be in the New Republic movie, and there's no way that he's not going to be introduced in Mandalorian season 4.
Wow, you
Really?
you got
Right?
you feel very convicted right now.
Yeah,
that
you're
that's gonna
going 0 to
happen.
100 on this
You
conversation.
guys, I mean, does that not make so much sense that it's like, again, I just have a feeling that everything.
That's how I started saying this, so I agree, just not as emphatically as you.
I just feel like I'm just like it's all clicking in my head. It's like every character we're gonna see is that Filoni like created or touched is gonna be in the New Republic movie. There's no way it's not going to happen, right?
Yeah, I kind of think so.
Yeah, we're talking Zeb, we're talking Callus, we're talking.
Let
Hondo
go of
Ohnaka.
Zeb, Matt.
It's not. You were on my team.
Everyone wants to see him again.
Stand strong.
All right. Another character that kind of crosses time is Maz Kanata, because canonically, I think she's like 1,000 years old. Luke has talked about her in the past showing up in some of the High Republic material.
Canonically.
That's good.
Thank you.
Um,
I'm enthralled by this.
Our
So she could
producer's
show
waving
up.
us along again.
Sorry, yeah, getting the old producer wave. So she could show up just about at any point, anywhere, anytime. Do you want to see her again? Do you think we'll see her again?
I would like to see her again post the Rise of Skywalker, because yes, she is in the High Republic. She's in the High Republic Phase 2, which is 400 years before the Skywalker saga, and she had that same cantina on Takodana.
Yep.
And so she has been, I mean, and Han even said in The Force Awakens that Maz has been running this watering hole for 1,000 years, and now it's destroyed. Like, what is she going to do with herself? I would be so interested to see. Did she rebuild? Did she find
No,
another?
She started
business?
settling trade disputes.
union
Or-
disputes.
Yeah, union disputes.
But then in episode 9, she was just a member of the Resistance, and she was
She had nowhere
on
to go,
Agent
probably.
Kloss. Yeah. So where does she go after that?
I also just feel like
She was just waiting for the New Republic's. Well, the New Republic would have been destroyed at that time. I don't know.
The brand new Republic.
She would have been waiting for the First Order's unemployment insurance to kick in.
Intricacies Part 2 coming up.
I thought you were gonna say, sorry, Matt,
No.
that she was waiting for the brand new Republic's Veteran Affairs program. And yeah, I fought in that. I was there.
I was there. I would like to see Maz Kanata again. I think she's a really cool character, and even though I don't hate The Last Jedi, I do wish she was in it more, and I feel like she'd be perfect. Instead of just taking a call, I would love if she was on Canto Bight instead. I feel like that would have been kind of an easy solve, to be honest. I feel like if she was just there, Rose, Maz Kanata, and Finn, like that's a great team up actually, and I would love to have seen that. That's like my one thing with her, is that we just needed more of her in that trilogy, because I feel like they set her up and then they just kind of didn't do anything with her really in 2 movies after that. And so that was a
agree.
bummer. So yeah, I mean, why not to see
I
her?
want to see something before The Force Awakens, specifically how she got the lightsaber.
Yes.
I have it under good authority that that's a good story for another time. I'm waiting. It's another time.
Yeah.
It has been 8 years since that scene. I am shocked that we have not gotten a comic, a book,
Yeah.
a mention at all.
I know.
about
It's like Obi-Wan's brother. How has that not been brought up
It
again?
is not like Obi-Wan's brother.
Sorry, I'm playing the hits today, guys.
It will be coming up again. All right. Last one I have on my list is Savage Opress.
I was surprised to see this one on your list. In what regard? You want to see him again, like post his death?
Give him
his-
spider legs, baby.
Spider legs. Yeah.
It runs in the family.
It does run in the family. I mean,
How did he die, actually? Did he get cut in half or did he just get stabbed?
he gets stabbed
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, you can come back from
similar to Marek, he loses his Night Sister magic and it fades out of him, and then he turns back into a shriveled little Zabrak instead of his cool one.
that. Really?
Did you put this, Max?
I need to go back and... no, I thought you did.
I did.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I thought you did.
Wow, you freaked me out for
Sorry.
a second. I was like,
No.
it's the
oh my God,
producer. The
sorry.
producer put it on.
Do I want to see him again?
No, I put him on the list because I think it'd be interesting to see somebody that's not Darth Maul. I feel like everyone always just goes to Darth Maul, and Savage Opress is somebody that has never been on in live action. Again, if it makes sense to have him on, I think he is you know in the Mask, the Jim Carrey movie, The Mask,
I'm familiar with it. Yeah.
one of my favorite movies of all time. At the end of it, when when Dorian puts on the mask, he turns into like the big scary version of the mask, and it's like that is Savage Opress. Like Darth Maul is scary. Savage Opress is really scary to me because he's got like the brawn and the brains versus I think Maul, who just has like the brains. Obviously, he's very agile and quick, so it's just creepy to have that. I think in contrast, and so like on screen, it'd be creepy to see again if the story makes sense. I think it would just be interesting to see a different version than just having Darth Maul be the go-to for everybody.
And he still kind of always lived in his brother's shadow. And
Yeah.
they had a good storyline where he always kind of sought his approval and kind of lived up to that expectation.
Yeah.
It always gave me American History X vibes. Not
Oh, interesting.
nearly as dark, but there's similarities there.
Yeah, that's
He's also got a very cool lightsaber. I was
Yeah.
recently watching a friend of the show, Jonathan from Star Wars Collected. He got a replica of Savage Opress's
Oh,
lightsaber.
yeah, I saw that.
And it looks stunning. Like, it gets very little screen time. A lot of the lightsabers get very little screen time, so it is, at the end of the day, kind of random which ones you know and which ones you don't.
Yeah.
But this should be one that everyone knows. It's a really good-looking lightsaber. It's double-bladed like Darth Maul's, but way cooler looking. Like, as a hilt, Darth Maul's is kind of lame, and Savage's is not.
Did you see that Galaxy Edge announced a new legacy lightsaber for Stellan Geos?
Yes. Did you see its very limited supply?
Yes, very limited.
Uh-huh. I have
How
it in my
much is it?
calendar for when it goes on sale. I think like 5,000.
What? $5,000?
no.
How many are there?
How
you
many
mean?
are?
Oh.
How, yeah.
I don't know how much it costs.
I was like,
I'm
Luke.
sure less than 5,000.
I was like,
I think they're
dropping
making
5K.
5,000 of these lightsabers.
That makes
Okay.
more sense. I was like, Luke, you're a parent. Maybe don't spend $5,000.
He doesn't need to go to college.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Do you know what the price point is as well of that?
No, I would guess 400.
Because the Ahsoka ones were pretty pricey too.
Yeah, but the Ahsoka
Yeah.
ones are too. But this one is big and
But-
way cooler.
The Ahsoka ones were the same length, were they not? Which was annoying,
The same length as what?
Oh, really? That would annoy me a lot.
Yeah.
As each other?
weren't they? Yeah, they
I
were.
would
There was
doubt
some
it.
sort of thing that
seems
was like
an unforced error. I don't know.
there was something weird. Or maybe it was the blade or something.
Are you talking about the Ahsoka, her white ones or her green ones?
The white ones at
Okay.
Galaxy's Edge.
It was the curved ones.
I don't-
Yeah.
I
don't
remember
know
them
then.
in the box.
There was something
I
weird
didn't know
about
they were
them.
different lengths. It might have been like the actual Blaze though, but those are customizable because they
Yeah,
come in different
that's true.
sizes.
But I think it comes. There was something weird about it. No, that's a whole other conversation. When we go to Galaxy's Edge for the 100th episode.
yeah, our
You dare me? I mean, that's coming up.
Yeah, we've been talking about this for months.
our producer's been looking into flights.
Oh, heck
And
yeah.
guys, we have so much money now in ad revenue.
Oh baby, keep listening to this show, people. You are making us rich.
You're make-
Between the three of us, we almost have $1.
You're making us pennies, folks. and to be fair, we are also making each other pennies when we listen to this podcast.
That's true. We are our own biggest fans.
I-
And our
and
own biggest
critics.
As much as I don't want that in the back of my head, I do think about it every time I listen to our podcast, which makes me feel lame enough already. And then I hear my own ad, and it's like, oh, this is maybe like a fraction of a cent divided 3 ways coming to my pocket one day.
That $5,000 lightsaber not looking so expensive anymore.
Going straight into my
Lightsaber.
401k. All right. Well, that is all the people that I had. But let us know what you think. Let us know if there are any other characters that we missed that you want to see brought back. If you think they'll be brought back, if you want to see them brought back, let us know. You can reach out to us. You can comment on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all of those good things. YouTube. So reach out. Let us know. Luke, I believe you said you had a force for thought.
I do. I was rewatching Attack of the Clones again recently, and it was the scene in the Colosseum when Count Dooku says, "Master Windu, you have fought gallantly. Now surrender, and your lives will be spared." And Mace Windu says, "We will not be hostages to be bartered with, Dooku." And I can't help but think, like, what the hell, Mace Windu? Like, there's all these other Jedi out here, Senator Padme Amidala, and you're like, no, execute us.
All the other Jedi are like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this?
Fizzler's just gonna come up and put a hand on his shoulder and be like, "Hey man, why don't you sit back?
That would
Let
be-
us talk for a minute."
We just saw like 2/3 of the Jedi that we came with die in front of us.
Significantly more. I think it is canon that there were like 200 that went and like 24 that survived.
That would be
And Mace Windu's just gonna sacrifice the rest of them. And I know it's like, oh, he knew the clones were coming, maybe, but he didn't.
He's also the best fighter there, isn't he? So it's kind of
Yeah.
everyone else is like, ooh. Can you imagine being the 24th person there, like the 24th worst fighter, looking around and you're like, I cannot believe I made it this far.
Barazoffy, probably.
it'd be really funny to see a lightsaber as Dooku. Nope, as Mace Windu says that line for the saber to go through him, and then retract, and then somebody else can take over. Like, no.
Kit Fisto
We'll do
kills
it.
him in cold blood. What were you thinking? Let's talk.
Barter away. The Republic has lots of credits. What are you looking for?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I started my wind down way too soon, but I was far too into it before I can get to Luke. So you can
man,
you
yeah.
can just edit that, right?
I was really hoping you did forget, so then I can come in with a good joke to segue us there. But good for you to recognize, because me and Luke both were like,
I know. As I was saying, like, oh, you can find us on socials. You guys were looking at each other, and I was like, well, forgot the force for thought again.
yeah,
It was killing me because we talked a lot about Mace Windu and Count
know,
Dooku
you
and
teased
that
it.
scene.
yeah.
You specifically said you had a good force for thought. You teased it all along the way. Anyway, I'm sure you will just edit that to make more sense.
Yep.
All right.
See you, Sammy.